Get funky.
All right, and welcome back to the Biz, where we're all up in it. I'm your boy Daniels, D Money, up here in Simi Valley.
Hey, Ron, Maxing and Relaxing down in SD.
Hey guys, I'm Nancy. I'm in Oceanport, New Jersey.
Oceanport, New Jersey, East Coast. Again up in the
Oh,
house.
no.
Sure.
How's everybody doing today?
Good. How are you, Daniels?
Pretty
Right,
good.
right, we're good. So we have an interesting situation here. Because of all the stuff that's going on, there's all this racial tension. And a lot of times I think we tend to ignore how that affects our interracial or biracial or triracial children, right? Especially in particular because all three of us have interracial children, right? So my question would be, we have the tension, systemic racism. Blacks are complaining or speaking out. I don't want to say complaining. They're speaking out about racial injustice, and there's a lot of whites who are with us, and there's a lot of whites who aren't with us. So I guess my question is, are our interracial kids caught in the middle? And if they are, what do we tell them? How do we guide them in this situation? All right. Nancy, you wanna get on that?
I think they certainly can be. And I think the way to facilitate them being in the middle as little as possible is that they learn from both sides, what their
Right.
heritage is, where they come from, who they are, what is the background, so that it's not just one side or the other. They have
Right.
to think through, how does the world see them? How do they see themselves in the mirror, and how does that contrast by how the world sees them? And that's what I've tried to do with my daughter.
All right. So before I get into like how the world sees them, and before I let you answer this question, I just want to make sure that who's people who are watching us understand where we're coming from, as far as, because I said we all have interracial children. So my personal situation, I have three interracial children. I'm Black. All my kids are half white, right? Aaron, your situation?
Black, and my baby's half El Salvadorian.
All right. And Nancy?
She is half white, half Black.
All right. Just want to make it clear. So when we start discussing how we're feeling or our viewpoints or opinions, people have, something to draw from. So go ahead.
So I just think that it's very important that we give our children both sides. I think they have to be able to look in the mirror and what do they see, and then we have to give them what will the world see. And as I was telling you, Randy, earlier, my daughter came to me when she was about 5 years old, and she said, "Mommy, what am I?" And as ignorant as this sounds, I really was not prepared for that question, because for a number of reasons, one of which is because I'm white, and I probably have never given thought to how the world sees me. So we're the sum of our experiences, right? I wasn't in anticipation of that question from her. And so very quickly, without any thought whatsoever, my initial response to it was, "Well, baby, what do you see when you look in the mirror?" And she said, I'm brown, Mommy, I'm brown. I said, "Well, then that's what you are."
And what sparked that question from her?
You know what, Randy, to be honest, it's been so long, I don't really remember what sparked it. I think it was probably something another kid said at school. If I had to, try to really go back, it was probably that. And it was, what was natural for me was probably what would have been natural for me to do. If I needed to know what I was, I would have looked in the mirror, because it's very simplistic for me, right? I'm just a white woman. There's no trying to figure it out. And so I responded, "What do you see?" And she said, "Mommy, I'm brown." And I said, "Then that's what you are, sweetie." And I did not, until very recently, really go into, how does the world see you? Part of that is because I believe that my child personally had some identity issues. she had some identity issues, and I tried to move her through that. But in my trying to move her through that, I did not address what the world saw. And very recently, I have certainly been speaking to her about how she's seen by the world because I'm so concerned for her safety.
Right.
And she views herself as a Black woman, and so does the world. I'm sure. So does the world. And so I need to maneuver in that way too.
Okay. And she's older. She's much older now than she was when she asked you that question initially,
Yeah.
right?
19. Right. She asked me that at about 5. But I don't think the questions stop. And for me, also for my situation very specifically, I believe the questions are going to continue because she's just lost her father. Her dad died on May 4th. And very recently, we're divorced. We've been divorced. And I'm talking to him all the time. I'm always calling on him because I'm like, am I answering the questions correctly? Am I giving her what she would get if you were still here? And really the answer is no on that, because I know my daughter knows, as I absolutely know, I do not have the same experience that she does. As much as she's the person I love the most in the world, I don't walk into a store and someone sees me as a Black woman. I'm a white woman. I have the experiences of a white woman. I have the privilege of a white woman. My daughter does not. When I get pulled over by the police, my experience is different and will be different from my daughter's. It will also be different if my daughter is not in the car with me. I had an experience the other day where I got pulled over by the police. I live in a very white town. It's quite white. I mean, that's just what it is. Let's just call it what it is. I live on the border of a very mixed town, people of color of all shades. And I was going to the car wash, and I got to the car wash and I was like, I gotta go to the ladies' room. So I went flying home. And you cannot imagine what I did to get home. I broke all kinds of laws. I was speeding 10 to 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, never thought twice about doing it. A police officer saw me. I knew he saw me. I knew he caught me. And because of where I was when I saw him catch me, I could gun it at that point. And I gunned it, thinking to myself, I'm gonna hide over here. He's gonna go right past me, and I'm gonna get home and I'm gonna avoid the ticket. And that's just me being honest. And I did that, but he caught me. And he pulled me over. My insurance was expired. My correct address was wrong on my license. I did not get a ticket for either one of those two things or a speeding ticket. And he was, good morning, how are you today? Nice to see you. May I have your license, registration, and insurance, please? Where are you going? I tell him. He says, oh, the address on the license is different than where a couple of houses up here? Yes, all of it. I got off from all of it. There was no flirtation. It wasn't that he gave me that pass because he thought I was pretty. No, it had nothing to do with any of that. And I can be guaranteed, and so can every other person of color, that they would not have that experience. And that includes my child. And that is, it makes me angry. It makes me sad. I can't believe, even though I can't believe that that's the world that I live in. And when I think about how pissed off I was that I actually got away and didn't have to pay anything, didn't get in trouble, certainly didn't have to worry about my life. I was so angry. I wanted to set stuff on fire. And I got into an argument with a friend of mine because she didn't understand the riots and the things that are going on. I said, I dealt with this for 3 seconds compared to people of color, and I was ready to set something on fire. How upset I was that I had such a different experience than one of my best friends would, or my child would, or my ex-husband. It's just, we need work. We need real work. And I think it begins with dealing with our kids.
All right. So given all that has happened, like, especially in these past few weeks, and there is a need for us to be able to, provide our children with adequate information. And I think not only interracial kids who identify as Black or white. Like all my kids identify as Black, right? Even my two sons, who are much lighter than I am, they still identify as Black. It's important that we do give all of our kids information about the way the world is, how the world views them in any given situation. And it's important. And I do think they do need to get it from both sides, because they need to understand the balance that has to be maintained in these interracial relationships, especially today, right? My daughter, who is visibly, Black, when people see her, she's a Black child, right? And we have to make sure, my wife and I have to make sure that we balance that. So even though she may identify as Black, she still understands, the effect of being half white, or, what I'm saying? We can't just give them one side and say, well, this is how it is. You identify as Black and the world hates you. That's not true. We need to have a balance, because there's, a whole group of people of non-color who would love her and respect her and understand her situation. So I think it's important that we keep that balance, right?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that's been missing is communication across the board. With the story that Nanci just told us, with getting pulled over, I've had personally nothing but positive experience with police officers. And being from Los Angeles, most of our cops are Hispanic, so it's always been it's not so much a white Black thing, depending on where you are from in the country or whatever. But our police force is, I think, 70% Hispanic in Southern California. So it's not that there aren't any bad apples out there. I think everybody's experience is different. And my daughter's young; she's only 4, but I think I would just give her examples of who she is or who she will be, or her mom's experiences are different than mine, but also to respect. I think there's a lot of things missing in terms of just plain old respect. Respecting a person in a position of authority, even if they may not deserve it. The goal is to get home, because my perspective is, if it's a ticket, it's just money.
Right.
I'd rather you come home, eat, whatever the cost of the ticket is. We can file an official complaint, but trying to combat that situation, it doesn't help. I so always want to look at the bigger picture, not just the moment of getting a ticket, even if you were guilty. When was the last time somebody admitted guilt, in getting a ticket? There also needs to be more of that. Yeah, I rolled the stop sign. Sorry, officer. I'll take the ticket, $100, whatever it is.
Right.
Then, that's how I was taught. Personally, my mom never let us use race as a crutch. Sometimes I feel that I hear that sometimes, but there's too many people successful now of all colors. Anything's possible. We've had, a Black president. Oprah's out there running around, ruling the world
With billions.
With billions. Oprah's running around.
And she didn't start that way.
She's from the South. She absolutely didn't start that way. So I think education in that aspect is definitely the key, but just communication, learning how to talk to each other, even somebody of the same color. Communication is so, communication is so pitiful in this country. It's not even funny.
It really is. It is. I'm sorry, Nanci. Go ahead.
No. I think that's because we don't necessarily hear one another. Even when we're listening, we don't hear. And sometimes we hear and we're not listening. Like, it's just, and communication is an art form. It's an art form under the best of circumstances, right? When you're sitting with people you love, who love you back, hearing them and listening to them can be very difficult. You add an element of racism and anger and frustration and years and decades and centuries of difficulty. Yeah, I agree with you, Aaron. Oprah's out there. We had a Black president. Yes, there are opportunities. But I also think there is a tremendous amount of lack of communication, lack of understanding. We've got a systemic issue, and sometimes communication, we've seen it a million times, right? Martin Luther King, you can't ask for a better communicator. They killed him anyway. He didn't set anything on fire. He didn't loot in. It wasn't looting. He wasn't sending his people out to do that. They killed him anyway. So I can understand the level at which, when I give thought to my daughter being hurt by anyone, I mean anyone, the guy on the street, a friend, when I think of a police officer or a person of authority harming my daughter, I will tell you what, they will know this white chick and her name for all eternity, because everything I will ever do from that point forward will be to make sure they know my name and they know my kid's name. I can't imagine being the family of these people that have suffered such difficulty in what everyone is going through right now. And the only thing I think we can do is give our kids everything that we can possibly think of to allow them to move through the world in a better way. But we don't have control over what other people feel and think, and that's the tough part, you know.
Right. All right. So before we close, because we're winding down, I wanted to ask you, you know, having an interracial child, and I guess we could all speak to this quickly. How has the current climate affected you as far as the protests? I mean, I think it might be at face value, people might understand that I might have an issue, and you know, I do,
Right.
because I'm Black, and they might understand that Aaron has an issue because he's Black. But your situation is a little different, because even though you are a white woman, you do have, you know, a Black child. How does that impact your feelings about what's going on with this? If you could like sum that up.
I have never been more sad. I have never cried more tears. I can put myself in the shoes of any mother who loses their child, any sister who loses I can put myself in those shoes. It is the saddest thing in the world for me to think about my daughter harmed in any way. It has increased my level of worry to the extent where my daughter wants to punch me. Like, she's just like, I am 19. Let me live. I will be okay. And I'm like, where are you going? Who are you going with? What time are you coming back? Text me when you go from one place to another place. What is the license plate of the car that you're getting in? What is his name? Where does he live? Where does your girlfriend? I mean, I'm a crazy person. And I mean, I was probably crazy a little bit before. People who know me will say that's probably true. But I'm at a whole nother level of crazy, because they don't care that she has a white mother. They care that she's a Black child. And my daughter doesn't even have her license. She's in the car with other young African-American men. She's in the car with other young African-American females. I have become even more intense in my worry. And I've been to 3 protests in the last week, and all I have done is sob through every one of them, because I cannot imagine knowing that your husband, your son may not come home. And it isn't because they don't do they do something to contribute to that. It's simply because of the color of their skin. The climate in this country it's bananas. And, you know, we joke, Randy, but it is something that, you know, the foundation of my life is based in the fact that I'm a Christian and I love Christ, and I try to extend the love of Jesus to every person I know. And I'm telling you, these things that happen in our country right now take me all the way back to my pre-Jesus self and bring out the very worst in me and the very most street in me. And I want to hurt somebody over it. And I'm just being honest. That's just the honest truth about it. It makes me so angry, I could lose my mind. And I think I've displaced some of that anger because it's been so difficult in the last month or so, and how intense it's been. I've gotten so angry over things that I wouldn't get angry about, because there's now so much on the inside from watching people lose their lives, and wives burying their husbands and mothers burying their children. And I see my daughter in every George Floyd, in every Breonna Taylor, in every Sandra Bland. I see my kid. I see my child. I see myself in losing my child. And I'm a crazy person about it. It's really intensified things for me as her mom.
All right. So I understand, because I know you, because we've known each other, 25 years. Yeah. I understand that when you see those images, it is actually, I mean, obviously it's deep for you because that is your child, but I understand that you have deeper connections like to the African American community,
I do.
just in your entire personal life. So you think that has definitely more, that gives more weight to what you're feeling.
I mean, if we're, I don't want it to sound like the very cliche, oh, my best friend is Black, that thing that sometimes white people do. But I am ingrained in Black people, people of color, they're my people. They're my family. My church is a good 90%, maybe 98% people of color. My pastor and my first lady are African American people. They are my spiritual parents. I married a Black man. I have a Black child, a woman who is my mother. I consider her my second mother. She is African American. Her entire family is my family. I have the top 5 people in my life that are my closest friends, my own age, all of which are African American. The people that are being affected out in the streets are the people that I love. And George Floyd and every other person that we could name, when I look at the situation that occurs and the difficulty that has happened, I see Randy Daniels, I see August Cassius, I see the people I love. I see my pastor, the most educated, well-spoken, well-respected man in my life. If he drives down the street in his car, I see him when I see George Floyd. When I see that, and I want so desperately to get a hold of all the white people that I know. And now in this last 2 months, I've realized I know a lot more than I thought I did, who need a real education, who need to get smacked around a little bit. And I don't mean that literally, but like you need a good, yo, these people are not what you think they are. How about you judge them on the content of their character and not on the color of their skin?
True,
because go through every day.
Yeah, because you stated that your pastor is super educated and all that other stuff, and all of us here are very educated people, and I like that you mentioned that because it speaks to the point of it doesn't matter how many college degrees I have, right? If I get pulled over, my college degrees aren't going to meet the police officer at the window.
That's right.
They're not going to be like, hey, before you engage this African American, you need to know that he has 3 college degrees, and you need to know that he is bilingual. You need to know this, and he does this, and he's so don't pull out your gun, right?
And
I'm just a Black dude.
You could show him those things, even if you could, that. And listen, let me say this: my sister's a police officer. I believe there are good police officers out there.
There are.
But all of us, the collective police officer, politician, lawmaker, I don't care who we're talking about. We can't just not be a racist. You have to go out and fight against it. You have to go out and say, listen, it doesn't affect me, but I'm not racist. I'm not a racist, but it doesn't really affect me, so I'm not protesting. I'm not going out. I'm not extending myself in any capacity. No, you need to go out and spend your money at Black-owned businesses. You need to go out and vote. You need to get your behind out to a protest and see what it's like for 1,500 people in a park somewhere crying because they are concerned for their children, and they are concerned for their fathers, and they are concerned for their sons and their uncles. You need to get out of your own little box where you live in your own little white world, and it goes a specific way for you, and that's what you think it is all the time. And by the way, I'm not separate from that. In this last couple of months, I've learned some things that probably I wouldn't have thought of, knowing me for 25 years, I'm involved in the culture. But there are some things that I've learned about myself and the privilege that I have that I didn't ever think about because we're the sum of our experiences. And my experiences are that I simply receive the privilege. It just comes to me because of what I look like. And it doesn't come to you because of what you look like. And that is the most insane, offensive thing that's the thing that creates the anger, I think, a lot of times. It's like, if you hate me, can you hate me because I do something to make you hate me instead of just showing up Black?
Right.
And when I think about And I don't even know half of what my daughter's been through. I can tell you right now, I know she has not shared everything with me. And I can't imagine her moving through her life when I think about her walking into a store and thinking that someone is watching her simply because of the color of her skin. That she could get pulled over with a knee on her neck, not because she did anything wrong, but simply because she's got a darker tan than I do.
Right. Yeah, and people in the country, I mean, and there's people on both sides, I'm sure, who can give you like a wide range of opinions about it. But again, it's hard to identify or even feel that unless, you know, you're walking in those shoes, right? I do want to, at some point, I want you to come back, and so we can, because there's a lot of stuff. I mean, you said this is multi-layered. We obviously can't get it all in one session.
Absolutely.
So I definitely want you to come back so we can talk about how this has personally affected you. Again, you know, this whole situation. Just we can discuss your personal interactions and how deeply rooted you are in your beliefs, you know, your spiritual beliefs, and how connected you are to your culture, and how, if we were all that way, this possibly could be a better place. All right. So you got to come back.
Yeah, definitely. A million times. I love nothing more than keep doing it.
All right. Awesome. All right. So for all of you out there.
I'm a talker. Can you guess?
No, it's all good. We need the talkers, right? So for all of you out there, if you like what you're saying, please hit the like button, the thumbs up. Please subscribe. And so we can keep coming back and hitting you with the biz. All right. I'm signing off.
Thanks for having me, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Signing off. Daniel's D Money from Simi Valley.
Hey, Rod down in SD. See you next time.
Oceanport.
Right. Awesome.
All
All right. Till next time. We're out.
BIZZ.